Hello and welcome to another episode of Steelfur Speaks. I'm Finbar, aka Steelfur, London-based Flesh and Blood player and content creator. I was sitting down to record this episode to talk about National Season, but LSS loves doing this, that whenever I sit down to record an episode, they drop news at that very same point. So here we are, round the table X LSS. We're going to watch this video and then we are going to... that's it. We're going to watch this video and then we're going to review the cards. And then once we've done that, we're going to talk a little bit about Nationals and then that'll be an episode. So let's watch this. It's fun already. Okay, so it comes in a hard, long box. This is really good for storage. Yeah. So I like this. Instantly you can see that they've sized the box for sleeved versions of these decks. And instantly we can see 3 new heroes in there. So this guy, Brevant, Melody, and of course Ira making a return because she is everyone's favourite. It is interesting they included Ira, but... yeah, so there we go. So there's obviously announcing of the collaboration, and they've made the Professor a young version of Teklo, which I think is really exciting. And also we've seen... Well, maybe this is actually a different version, right? Because Teklo is someone else. Okay, so we can see it actually has a different name to Teklo in this form, so it's not actually the same hero, though potentially with this ability it might be legal in CC or in UPF, or well, it might even be legal in Blitz, right? Which is kind of one of the big questions that we have about the set, is how many of these cards are actually legal in Blitz, how many of them are just a reprint of cards that will appear in Bright Lights, right? For me, this set does not succeed if, much like the Dorinthia versus Rhinar, it has an exclusive card that means every player who wants to play Mechanologist has to buy this card. Like, for me, that is a failure when it comes to these kind of sets. It's a failure with Dorinthia versus Rhinar that Glistening Steelblade has not been reprinted, and the only way to get it is to buy 3 copies of a £35, deck. And, the Majestic sells for the cost of a deck because it's the only card in there worth money, right? That's not good enough for me. So if all of these cards are legal in Blitz and not legal in and not reprinted in Bright Lights, then I think we have a problem. As for the ability, maybe this is always just going to be better, right? You can play Evos from your banished zone. You may play your next Evo as though it was an instant when you do draw a card, compared to Evos cost 1 less to play for each opposing hero, and you may play heroes from your banished zone. So this, in a multiplayer game, makes Evos free, and makes even Evo Soul Memory only cost 1. This lets you play it as an instant, which probably has a bit more flexibility. But I think even if I was playing Blitz, this is kind of appealing. These, however, do look like cards that would just be in Bright Lights. They do have the TCC, which is this set coding, but they could very easily be printed in Bright Lights. And maybe that's kind of what we hope for, is that this is just a preview of Bright Lights cards that you can, because for me, this product is a standalone product to get Commander players into the game, right? And for that, it's fine to put cards that are reprints in. It's fine to put cards that they could, it's fine to say that these are decks that you could build yourself and just have them not be something that you need to build yourself. These are 4 starter decks, but, they have a few more power cards in, a few more Majestics, etc. But, they also exist in the main set. Maybe these are alt-art versions or something like that. In terms of are these any good, your Teklo Blaster attacks can target any opposing hero. That's pretty cool. So Teklo Blaster, I don't know if that's anything we've seen. I don't think it is. But, obviously in UPF you can only attack left or right. This lets you shoot anyone, creates the possibility for Kingmakey and things like that, which is quite exciting. Costs 1 less for each opposing hero, so maybe Teklo Blaster costs 3 or something like that. Teklo Blaster gets +1. Okay, I mean, these are all really good cards for multiplayer, but they would work in, a limited environment, and they would also work in a constructed environment if you just wanted something that gives you a bit more power. Like getting +1, -1 cost and go again is fine in limited and in some forms of constructed. So you might play like these, and then you might play the head from this as kind of like your options, right? So you might see yourself just playing this to get go again, right, on all of your weapon attacks. That could be pretty cool. So I actually do expect, just reading these cards, even though they are worded to include the potential for UPF, I think they could just be printed in the draft set. I think they wouldn't interfere with the draft. They'll still be powerful. You know, cost reduction is powerful. Boasting your weapon is powerful. This one isn't, but it's still 2 health, which is still good. So you could still print this at rare, and it will be fine. Apocalypse Automaton is play this is only one or more evos, so you have to already have something. And this attacks X opposing heroes, where X is the number of evos you have equipped. Okay, so this is actually a full-on UPF card. But it is still a 3 for 6. Okay. This one is a bit harder to justify not having not having in a UPF only set, but I could also see how this plays in terms of, you could just put this in as draft chaff, right? It's a majestic, it's a 3 for 6. That might be on rate in Bright Lights, we don't know yet. And this could easily just be in the set, right? As a 3 for 5 plus potentially 4, could potentially be a 3 for 9. So far, this is the only card these two are the only 2 cards that look at me and scream, this is UPF only. So again, I'm hoping all of these cards are just in Bright Lights. However, here we start to get a bit of a problem, because these Bard cards are basically, there's no other set that these are in, right? This is a Bard border. This is an Aria border, but this is a Bard border. That's a Solana border. Interesting. Okay. Let's just go through, right? It'll be interesting to see if Ira gets any more cards. So Melody, whenever you play a song, create a copper token equal to the number of other heroes in the game. So if you're playing a song, you're getting 1 copper token, which is quite interesting. Jinglewood Smash Hit. I love this. I love this whole... In fact, I actually think this Bard art is fantastic. Every single piece of this Bard art is fantastic. The thing about Bard... So with the mech cards, I'm like, if you like mech and you've bought this starter deck series, like for UPF, you should be able to dismantle the mech cards and turn them into a deck, right? But it's okay if the understanding is that Bard is just not like legal in Blitz, right? Or maybe it is, but it's just never going to be good, right? So yeah, like this is never going to be good in Blitz, right? Opposing hero gains might, quicken, or vigor. You create a copper, okay. When this hits, destroy it. Yeah, sure. But all the other cards say each other hero gets a... look at the art on this. Was Fiendal a Bard? That's gorgeous. Can we zoom in a bit? That's fantastic. That's really amazing. Okay, cool. Some of the Rose and Matador, amazing. Some of the Shining Knight, some of the Wandering Mind. These are all gorgeous cards. Bard is clearly one of those heroes that someone has put a lot of love into. Recursion. Prevents some damage. Very much like boosting and kingmaking in terms of Bard. So like you could easily see Bard being paired with someone else in a UPF format and just like buffing them all the time and kind of like having a bit of fun there. When it attacks, it gets plus X, where X is twice the number of cards in all pitch zones. That's a bit odd. So why would they be pitching on your turn? That's interesting. Maybe some hints. I guess there's instant speed play. Not here, but maybe there's instant speed play further down. People playing for defense reactions, and then suddenly it gets boosted. Yeah, so Melody looks all right. She looks like she's a good team player. I guess it gets buffed from her pitch cards, so she can buff it herself. And if they play a defense reaction, then it gets buffed more. I wonder. She definitely looks interesting. I could definitely see myself playing her at the table, though I do wonder how she wins. She's kind of like the group hug deck, I guess, which is don't attack me because I'm making everyone feel happy, and then suddenly she's winning. Brevant, this is like a real Guardian. Yeah, wow. Okay, you may have any number of Chivalry in your deck. That's hilarious. Okay, so there's a card called Chivalry that you can just play a lot of. We don't get to see... Do we get to see what Chivalry is? Because we have a Courage token. We don't have a Chivalry token. Interesting. Okay. Attack, if you have Chivalry in your pitch zone, this gets +1, sure. Protect, you may defend any hero. Ooh, that's pretty fun. Yeah, that's pretty fun, especially for UPF. Or for like PvE when it comes. When this defends, another target hero draws a card. Interesting. So a little bit of group hug there as well. Create a Vigor token under another hero's control. A Might token under another hero's control. Quicken. Okay. If this has 13 or more power, non-equipment cards get -1 while defending this. Okay, Tower is a new Guardian keyword. Wow. Okay, so we've got Towering Titan, which buffs cards massively. And this is clearly like the, if you've buffed this card massively, then it gets a bonus. I think that's a really interesting way for Guardian to go. I don't know whether it will end up being consistent, but I feel like Guardians have already kind of wanted to play buff cards already. So the idea that they're going to get a 3 for 7 that suddenly gets better if they manage to buff it is quite fun. I mean, 3 for 7 is on rate anyway. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, now we get to see if Ira gets any new cards. So ability is still the same. Destroy this, draw a card, activate this ability only if you hit 3 or more times. Okay, so it's like a Mask of the Momentum, but it's once per turn. That's really nice. As an introductory card, this is really fantastic. Destroy this, create a Crouching Tiger. Okay, so she's going Crouching Tiger. Okay, interesting. And then reprint of Bittering Thorns. Mauling Key, I think, is new, actually. If Crouching Tiger was the last attack, this combat chain, deal 1 damage to each opposing hero. Okay. Crouching Tiger play gets +1. Okay, okay. So this is really interesting. So we've got this new deck. You can obviously play it. There are social play kits. There's going to be armory kits. They're not month specific. That's really interesting. Okay. So you're going to get these and you can do them whenever you like. And they have cold foil versions of Melody's equipment and her weapons and stuff and playmats. That's really nice. Yeah. Okay. So this seems really nice. It comes with a playmat, cold foil weapons, pre-constructed decks, which are blitz legal, which are blitz sized. We don't know if they're blitz legal, but it does say cards are also legal in other formats. Okay, so that's a bit of a worry. I think we'll put that as a bit of a worry. So, okay, so what's my big worry here? My big worry is you see something like this Guardian card and you say, okay, this might actually be good, right? But it's in this box. When is it getting reprinted? And that's a big problem, because I know people who are going to buy this to have the copies of the cards, and it's not going to be on the shelves to attract people to play in, right? That's my biggest worry about this. Like, I see this as a product that's going to attract people into Flesh and Blood who see it on a shelf and say, hey, there are 4 of us, we were going to play a board game, let's play that instead. And it doesn't do that if the shelf copies just fly off because, you know, I want a copy of Brevant and I want a copy of Lay Down the Law. You know, it's tricky. It's definitely tricky because those cards do also sell the box, which obviously is one of LSS's goals, is to sell the product. You know, that's perfectly fine and reasonable, but it definitely does create friction. And I mean, I don't think or know if LSS is aware, maybe because Dorinthia hasn't been as popular as she could have been, how much friction Glistening Steelblade has made in the community. You know, when you're actually on the ground talking to Dorinthia players and all of that, and how much friction that has actually caused. But if we put that thought aside, like, I'm super excited for this product. You know, I see this as something I can take to my gaming store. We've had a lot of people just sitting down playing like 4 multiplayer games of Lorcana who have played Flesh and Blood or have tried playing Flesh and Blood, or maybe 2 out of the 4 people have played Flesh and Blood. And I think if I pulled this out and said, hey, do you want to play a couple rounds of this? And the Dorinthia versus Rhinar set, like, as much as I malign it for the fact that that Majestic hasn't been reprinted, if you see that video on my channel in the new player guide where I actually took it to a store and ran a new player event with it, one of the things and the takeaways from it was that that set was actually incredibly well balanced against each other. The heroes felt really great to play into each other. And it was just a really good experience. And this is balanced in the same way. It has these little points of interaction where people can choose to block for other people and do stuff like that, make alliances, and all that kind of fun interaction that you get in Commander. Then I could really, really love this set, and I'll just keep it sealed in my cupboard, and I'll take it out as a board game and play it with people, and it'll be super fun. And that is something that Flesh and Blood sorely needs. It has needed it for a while, is a casual entryway into the game that does not put pressure to get a full competitive set of cards and can be played in multiplayer in a fun way, and doesn't have the same problems that UPF has, where you need to build a specific deck and bring it, and it's hard to get people coordinated for that. This feels like it's a brilliant product. I'm really excited to see it. In terms of just like moving on to our second topic, just so we can do that quickly, it's just to talk about what this whole video was supposed to be about, right? And that is nationals, right? We've got UK nationals coming up this weekend. I will not be there. I didn't qualify because I was on my break from the game and from content creation, and that's fine. So I've decided to spend that money on some new shelves and some, a trip. We're talking about going on holiday to somewhere in Eastern Europe or something like that. So, that's a good use of the money for me, not going to a tournament I haven't qualified. The side event schedule is fine, but it's just so far away. And there's also a train strike on the day before the tournament, so I would have to go up a day early and all this other stuff. So I'm not going to nationals, and that's fine. I'll just be watching the Push the Point cast from home, which will be exciting. But I want to talk about the meta, right? So there's a lot of... The simple fact is, right, if you want to win the calling this weekend, and unless you are the person who made this Briar deck, and Briar fatigue Briar inside out, and you're willing to block, and one of the things you do if you watch his stream of his gameplay is that he pivoted quite drastically in some of the games on stream between a defensive and aggressive playstyle based on what his opponent was doing. You need to be able to make those reads to win with this kind of deck. It's not like Oldhim, where you could just fatigue by blocking everything. There are points and pivot points and things like that make this deck quite complicated. So really, if you want to win your national championships, you should play Lexi. Do you see? This is a record of everyone who's won all the national championships we've had so far. Do you see something? Do you see Lexi just coming up all the way there? There's other decks there as well. Dorinthia won one, 96 people, sure. Briar obviously won. The US won. Really odd Briar deck. People see it coming now. The Lexi player almost beat him in the top 8, which, when he was teched with a bit more recursion, a bit more setup for the fatigue. You see Rhinar, Dromai, Kano even won too, so you can win on these off-budget heroes. Icelanders won too. But I think the thing that comes through to me here, and I think the thing that people should take away for their national season, if you've come to this video and you've listened through Bright Lights in the order to try and think, hey, what does Steelfur think about the national season? I'll say Lexi is still the best deck. Still the best deck by far. I think she has the best win rates across the field. She has the best win rates into all of these strange, choices that you're going to run into. And she even has good win rates into the decks that are meant to target her, like Icelander, like Briar, like Bravo. So, play Lexi is the obvious choice, especially if you're there on low reps and you're like, I don't know what to play. I haven't been playing a lot recently. Lexi is the aggro deck. She is the easier deck. Yes, you do need to have a strategy for fatigue, and that's the big thing that's kind of changed in Lexi between the early Lexi meta and now, is that there's a lot more focus on people trying to fatigue Lexi and block out her really good turns and build on that. So you need a plan for that, but I think it's much easier to build a plan for how to handle fatigue on Lexi than it is to learn how to play a deck like this Fatigue Briar deck or a deck like Icelander in the course of a week, right, or 2 weeks. So I think if you're getting reps into Icelander, you stick with it. You know, if you've had a lot of practice with her, I think she's still a fantastic deck. I think you saw that in the top 8. A lot of the top 8 players at US Nats, you know, we had 2 Icelanders right there. Same goes for Dromai. If you've had a lot of reps, you're fine to stick on Dromai. You're fine to stick on Lexi, but you need to make sure you have a plan for fatigue. And you maybe need to consider some of the options that this guy had, Craig Krempels, who was running stuff like Quiver of Abyssal Depths and was running Remembrance, just to have a bit more depth into fatigue. If you get the sense, you know, you're not going to know, let's face it, right? You're going against a Briar and a Swiss. You're better off speccing against this Briar list, the one that most people are going to play with Channel Mount Heroic and those kind of things. You're not better off unless you know the player is going to be doing this kind of fatigue Briar list. You're not better off sideboarding it against fatigue. You know, that being said, it might be an idea you could put one Remembrance in just to give yourself a bit of a cover, right? A lot of people don't use the Quiver as often as they could with Lexi anyway, so maybe you just put a Quiver of Abyssal Depths in instead. There's definitely a trick with Lexi that there's not really that much space going around in the deck, so there isn't that much room in the sideboard. But, you know, if you're expecting lots of fatigue to come out, these are your answers. Whether you choose to include them, that's up to you. I would say, though, I'd still expect to see the majority of people playing Briar. They've practiced this list. They've practiced this aggressive form of Briar, and they're probably still going to come and play that, even though this is even more Earth than I would expect to see. You know, I still expect to see the Channel Mount Heroic big turns Briar. So I think that's just worth taking into consideration. You know, we're in the point where I don't think the Bravo deck is the Briar deck is sufficiently good at low reps that people should pivot into it. I think you're still worth just sticking with what you know. You know, whatever deck that is. I will say, like, it feels to me like Bravo's kind of maybe fallen down a bit. But then if you look at the calling, you can say Bravo still came second. I feel like we're in a really, really diverse CC meta right now. And that kind of gives you the implication that you can kind of play anything you want as long as you've got a lot of reps into it. And that's kind of reflected in the fact that even, you know, I call them weird heroes. I don't mean to call them weird. I just mean off-meta heroes are still taking down events, like large events like Dash, Kado, and Dorinthia and things. And these are probably players who have quite a lot of reps who are winning these tournaments, right? So, you know, Australia was not a small national championship, probably won by someone with a lot of reps on Dash. So take that in mind. That's just my take. I don't think this Briar deck that's come out, this Craig Kemples list, is good enough to warrant not Craig Campbell, sorry, Charles Dunn, a bit of a long day. I don't think it's good enough and easy enough to learn that it warrants a last-minute pivot. If you're playing a Nationals this weekend, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks' time, if you still have a Nationals coming up, you could just start getting reps with this now and see if it makes sense to pivot. But I have a suspicion that now that Lexis have seen this deck and they're not as surprised by it, there will be a lot more flexibility to queue up into the big anti-fatigue turns and probably be able to take this deck down with a few minor changes to the Lexi deck. And I have a feeling that now that Icelander has seen this deck list as well, again, they're going to find ways to push damage a bit more. I think part of what was going for this deck was an element of surprise, and I'm not sure that will carry through into later tournaments and later nationals. So let's keep that in mind. This weekend at the UK, I'm expecting to see quite a few people playing this deck. I know quite a few people who are Briar players who probably saw this deck and thought, hey, that's quite fun. I know quite a few people who had a lot of reps with Oldhim who are thinking, hey, that's cool, that's a fun fatigue, let me play it. So I think we will start to see this deck at this weekend, but I also think we will see people losing on it who do not have the same number of reps the person who won the US National Championships did. I think this is a deck more than a lot of the other decks in the format. Like, if I had to tier them, I'd probably go Lexi as the easiest, right? That's not that that's not that revolutionary that Lexi is the easiest. Then we probably go, I think, Azuri, then probably Bravo, then probably Dromai, and then probably Icelander. Probably then this Briar deck, and then Icelander. But I think those two require slightly different skills. So I think, if you've invested time into either of those, then you're kind of there. You might put Dromai above Icelander. I don't know. They're probably about the same. And I think this Briar deck is kind of hovering around there as well. I think they're all probably similar levels of complexity, but they do definitely reward rehearsals. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. As I say, was kind of surprised by the drop of this latest news about the professor. So I really wanted to talk about it when I saw it, my worries and my concerns, but also how excited I am. And then, of course, just some thoughts on Nationals this weekend to tide you all over. As always, I'm Steelfur. This was me speaking. Have a great week, and I will talk to you all soon. And good luck at whatever Nationals tournaments you're playing. I wish I was there with you. Have a fantastic thing. Oh, and before I leave, if you see me at any future events, we have stickers now. Yeah, we have really cool stickers. They're like the die-cut stickers. They're not as big as I thought they would be, but they're still pretty nifty. So if you see me at an event and you want one of those, just let me know. I'll probably have some on me. Swag and merch, all glorious. So we like to see that. All right, that's it. That's it from me. Have a great one. I'll talk to you all soon.